Hello and welcome back to the next module of our course. The previous two modules were designed to establish strong intuitions behind all the current advancements in AI. In this module, we will focus on applying this knowledge in practice. We'll start by covering some prompting skills. Prompting skills aren't just a niche trick. These skills are the foundation for using simple conversational models, more advanced reasoning models, and designing or orchestrating agents. That's right, you will need to know prompting to work with agents. Now, when we say agents, we're talking about AI systems that can autonomously decide, plan, and execute actions. Oftentimes, they do that in coordination with other tools or tasks, all guided by well crafted prompts. We will cover them in more depth as we progress through this module. A lot of what we've learned about AI so far, how models need massive amounts of data and how they learn from that data, directly shapes how we design prompts. In the previous modules, we saw that the data is crucial for AI, and it is also crucial in prompting. Your prompt is also a form of input data. The specific words and structure you give to the model act like a key that unlocks the right patterns from its vast internal knowledge. Models are huge, they remember so much, and they can do so many things. It's like a giant block of marble, you can sculpt so much with it. The problem is, you need to know how. And it's all about specificity and precision. For example, a bad prompt might be something like, explain this concept. Without telling the model which concept or how much in depth we want the explanation, you'll get a generic or potentially off target response. However, a good prompt might look something like this. Clarify the concept of a neutron star by comparing its density, gravitational mass, and observable characteristics to those of a black hole, using examples to highlight the differences. Now, another way to be specific is by giving snippets of text or other materials as context. For instance, if you have a particular research paper you want summarized, you might paste a relevant excerpt in your prompt and say, based on the following excerpt, highlight the three most important findings and explain them in plain language. By inserting the snippet, you're signaling to the model the domain and data it should focus on, which drastically boosts accuracy. Finally, don't forget the power of examples within your prompt. If you want a model to format answers in a certain way, show it. For instance, summarize the text in 3 bullet points, similar to this example. Then, provide a small example of how you want the summary to look. A bad use of examples might be too generic or even misleading, like showing an example that doesn't match the instructions you gave. Again, it all comes down to specificity and clarity. In the next videos, we're going to explore how to refine prompts for different tasks and scenarios. Whether you're chatting with a simple Q&A model, orchestrating a chain of reasoning, or building a more complex agent. Welcome back. In our previous video, we focused on crafting specific prompts to guide the model. But once you've mastered the basic of clarity and context, there's another layer to process: iterative refinement. By now, you know that large language models use a probabilistic approach, essentially predicting one word after another based on patterns they've learned. That means each time you prompt a model, it might produce a slightly different answer, even if you feed it the same prompt every time. Because of this element of randomness, the first response you get might not fully match what you have in mind. The simple solution is to resend your prompt several times until you get a satisfactory answer. And sometimes, you won't even realize you had certain expectations until you see how the model's response differs from what you wanted. That's where iterative refinement comes in. Let's look at a couple of quick examples. Say you prompt the model with, write a marketing tagline about sustainable energy for social media, and the model responds with, power the planet, one green step at a time. It sounds nice, but maybe you secretly wanted a playful, quirky vibe. You didn't specify that in your prompt, but you realized it only after seeing this slightly bland tagline. So you refine it by adding, make it playful and include a rhyme. Now the model might respond, go green on the scene, power up your daily routine. That second tagline might be much closer to what you had in mind. This process of noticing what's missing or what feels off, then naming it and feeding that back into the prompt is critical. Suppose you ask, Explain quantum computing in simple terms. The model replies with a perfectly fine explanation, but you realize you need it to fit in 2 sentences for a short social media post. So you refine it. Rephrase into concise sentences, avoiding technical jargon. That extra instruction about brevity and language style can drastically alter the outcome. In the last module, we also discussed the concept of temperature, and most models use a medium temperature setting, so their answers will be somewhat varied. So even though it might be annoying, be prepared for some trial and error, even with advanced reasoning models. Probabilistic doesn't mean random guesswork, but it does mean there is enough variation that the first answer won't always be perfect. Sometimes you will need 2 or 3 attempts, maybe more, to get exactly what you want. Over time, you'll get a feel for how to structure your prompts to reduce guesswork and cut down on how many times you have to iterate. Welcome back. In this video, let's talk about the power of explicitly assigning roles to your AI. This is sometimes referred to as role prompting, and it's a great way to tap into the model's internal knowledge and skills more effectively. Think of it as telling the AI, I want you to act like the ideal worker for this specific task. Large language models have internal representations of different types of expertise, like a seasoned teacher, a careful researcher, or a creative marketer. By explicitly spelling out which hat or role you want the model to wear, you are essentially zooming in on that part of the model's knowledge. It's also a form of specificity, just like giving context or examples, because you're focusing the model's attention on what you want it to be and do, rather than leaving it to guess. Here is a straightforward example. Suppose you prompt the model with, write a short article about renewable energy. You might get a fine response, but if you say, you're a seasoned environmental journalist, write a short article about renewable energy that appeals to eco-conscious readers, highlighting the latest innovations and their impact on global sustainability. Suddenly, the model is nudged into a more specialized stance. By naming a role seasoned environmental journalist, you bring out the style, tone, and depth of knowledge associated with that role. Let's look at another example. Maybe you want the model to act like a thorough proofreader. You might say, you're a detail-oriented copy editor with a strong grasp of grammar and style. Proofread the following text for errors and suggest improvements. Versus just, proofread this text. In the second prompt, the model might do a decent job, but in the first prompt, you're reminding the model to really lean into the editor-like qualities. You'll often see more careful, structured feedback as a result. This idea of spelling out the ideal worker is so powerful because it's already in the model's knowledge. All you need to do is to bring it to the forefront with a well-crafted prompt. And that's what role assignment is all about, giving the AI specific identity or job title so it assesses and applies the patterns relevant to that role. In this session, we're going to talk about another practical strategy when working with large language models, the divide and conquer approach. Sometimes, even with the most advanced reasoning models, it's tough to get everything just right in a single prompt. You might be asking for a complex multi-step plan or a sophisticated analysis that the model could miss if you lump it all into one request. So, instead of expecting the perfect solution in one go, we can break the task into smaller, more manageable pieces. Think of it like designing a custom chain of thought to build more advanced reasoning, just like we did in the last module. Let's look at an example. So the high-level task is plan a new marketing campaign for an eco-friendly product line. That's a big request. Rather than just ask for an entire campaign strategy in one shot, you can break it down. Step 1. Identify the key selling points of our eco-friendly product line, including how they stand out from the competition. Focus on 3 main differentiators. Let the model respond and then review. You're now guiding the AI's chain of thought to focus on only one piece of the puzzle. Step 2. Based on those differentiators, outline 3 distinct target audiences and why these features appeal to each audience. Now the model is building on that first step, refining and adding depth. Once again, you check whether it captured what you need. Step 3. Propose a tagline and key messaging for each of those audiences. By the time you get here, you have a more thorough and focused set of outputs, and you've been able to tweak the direction at each stage if anything went off track. This division ensures that each piece is given an attention it needs. It's also an analogy for chain of thought prompting, but with you ensuring every link in the chain is strong. If at any point you notice a mismatch between what you expected and what the model produced, you can correct course by refining your prompt before moving to the next step. When you do this, you're not only helping the model organize its reasoning, but also giving yourself space to observe and redirect. In the end, you will often end up with a better, more accurate final result, faster than if you try to get the model to do it all at once.